Thank you, Glass Hall, for letting us in a little bit to the world of the Hungarian innovation ecosystem. Because we'll continue with talking about a little bit more about innovative ecosystems. Because in today's world, innovative ecosystems are not just a good to have; they are essential. But why do we need them so much? And what exactly makes them successful? What is the secret sauce that makes some ecosystems thrive while others struggle? Well, we look into these questions with a great a great panel of experts. And I want to encourage everyone to ask questions after the discussion, and let's keep this interactive and share our thoughts. But to guide us through this topic, I'm excited to welcome our panel, Zsófi Tóth, Ákos Deliaga, Ákos Dervalic, Timofey Golovin, and Thomas Kösters, who's just arrived. Give them a big round of applause. Thank you.
So, good morning, everyone, and thank you for just having me in time here. So, I realize we start earlier. 45 was planned. Okay, great. So, good morning. My name is Thomas Kösters, and I'm the CEO of the Ecosystems, and very happy to lead this panel and a short introduction about ecosystems versus economies. Great. So I was asked to do a short keynote before, but I would say we quickly introduce everyone, then we do the introduction of the topics, and then we go into the round two. Very good. So maybe, Zsófi, you want to start quickly saying hi.
Hi guys, I'm Zsófi Tóth. I'm the co-founder of Travel to Budapest. We just opened our new space in Budapest 2 months ago, and we actually are based. We're coming from Sofia, Bulgaria, and we try to be regional home for the IT system. So this means that not only build communities between the co-workings that we do, but we also look for buildings that have a heritage that were like innovation hubs in their prime. So what we do is actually revitalize those factory buildings and get them to new life, and then welcome students and the IT ecosystem to thrive there. Yeah, we're building buildings.
Very cool place in Sofia as well. Great rooftop terrace to the people house. I'm going to go to Sofia. Good morning, everybody. My name is Ákos Deliaga. I'm one of the co-founders of Colocable. Okay? It's an AI-based company that I say for the association of IT Hungary ideas from this position. We also started the startup organization. Most of what are the most interesting company in accelerator. We participate in a tech touch program that talked about it first and you.
Hi everyone, my name is Ákos Deliaga. I'm a managing partner of Green Brother. We work on the energy, mobility, and circular economy sectors. In person, I'm a registered expert for the European Commissions to support innovations for funding. And in Hungary, what we do is bringing startups and innovative companies to new markets, mainly in Europe, or helping them to get fundraising. And we represent the EIT No Energy and the EIT Urban Mobility in Hungary. So we provide their programs, their fundings, their support activities, and of course money for international growth.
Okay, hello, my name is Timofey Golovin. I am co-founder of Vino. We just started last year, and we are focusing on incubation and acceleration of startups. Plus, we are helping to for startups to grow and to appear in the fields that we like generative AI or wine tech, why not? And and we are running a number of acceleration and startup educational activities.
Very good. Thank you so much for the quick intro round. Now let's go to the topic. We want to talk about ecosystems and the economy overall, or the old economy overall. Is there a clicker, or do I just assign someone to go to the next slide? Where's the clicker? There. Okay, fantastic. Great. Then I keep standing. That's how. Okay, quickly about me. Deep Ecosystems is a community of ecosystem and innovation hubs worldwide. We have members all around the world, from Japan to South America, with the majority being in Europe. And I'm happy that we also have now the first ones here in Hungary, and having more and more. What I want to talk about is the difference between the old model for startup support that represents maybe the old economy versus the new way of how you create an ecosystem around startups. So what did the old model for startup support do? Basically, you were picking one startup that you had that was in your region.
I
and you
can't tell your location
trying
because
to
of your
add
settings.
capital and training
Where would you like
to
to hear
that
the weather
startup
for?
to the extent that they hopefully become successful. Sounds familiar, probably, right? A lot of programs work like that. They say, these are the startups we have. We give them as much training and as much capital as we can, and then we see how far we get. Sounds reasonable, right? That's how you do it. Or are there problems with that approach? So what's the problem if I pick the single startup and I give them the capital and the training I have? There's a limitation. Several limitations. I only have the startup I have. Might not be the best. I can only work with the startups that are already here. I give them the capital that I have. Well, problem, I might not have a lot of capital. I only can give them the capital that I have. How far will I get with the capital that I have? Me personally, not very far. Maybe some further, but that's a problem, right? Training. I give them all the training I can give them. Okay. That I can give them. How much is that? How far do I get if I give them the training I can give them? Not very far. So the ecosystem approach focuses on these limitations and says, if we only focus on the things that we have, startups and resources, we're not going to get very far. So what we need to do, jump too much. No, slide is missing. Here it is. Okay. What we need to do is this wonderful approach, which is a system-focused intervention. Instead of project-focused intervention, we focus on the system. What is the difference? If I focus on the system, I will attract more startups than I have. If I attract more resources, I will have more than I had before. And I need to attract more capital and more know-how into the system. So if I focus on the functioning of the system, the available resources and the possible startups to grow will exponentially be bigger. Right? So that is the whole story about why we focus on ecosystems. Now, the ecosystem theory was developed around the Silicon Valley when they realized what they did. When they realized that they did not follow, let's say, the old economy. It's an ex-post analysis of what happened in the Silicon Valley. It's the ecosystem theory. There's now 1,000 books about this. Now, what we can learn from this is that we need to think about, the harder nut to crack, how to improve the functioning of the system so it's attractive for others to come there, bring their startups, bring their resources, bring their know-how and capital, right? And how we do that, there's a lot of approaches, but I want to summarize it briefly and use our company name as a little help. So there's shallow ecosystems and there's deep ecosystems. Shallow ecosystems, they forget to focus on the functioning of the system. They focus on one-on-one relations. The startups I have, the knowledge I have. Deep ecosystems, they try to work on the broader system and make it work better. So while shallow ecosystems, they centralize ecosystem management in one entity with one player, deep ecosystems build a symbiosis of many ecosystem contributors. Why is that important? Because that is a system that attracts more resources. If I monopolize the system, it's not attractive for new entries. Shallow ecosystems build on vanity metrics, while deep ecosystems create holistic ecosystem analysis. So shallow ecosystems might talk about how many unicorns do we have. Deep ecosystems will talk about the speed of exchange of resources, the speed of people getting to change the startup they're working on, creating growth. This is not well formatted, I must say. Something. So deep ecosystems invest in the structures that support hundreds of startups continuously, while the shallow ecosystems, they focus on single startups, as I said. What the shallow ecosystems do is to try to charm global venture capital to come and say, look, what cool startups we have. They focus on marketing. They focus on telling everyone the startups that we have are great. While the deep ecosystems, they know their worth and they focus on sustainable impact. So they build their own system, they build their own venture capital scene that at some point will be attractive to the others without going there and saying, hey, look at me, I'm the most beautiful. Okay? So basically the last point, happy about crumbles of the global startup cake. That's what shallow ecosystems do. Something falls off the big table. We're gonna get it. Oh, finally, someone, the big guys, looked at our startup ecosystem. We're all happy. Deep ecosystems, they have the ambition to leave their own mark in history, and they're entrepreneurial about making that happen. But it's a different attitude when you focus on the system. Okay, so we looked at Hungary together, and we were looking for the path for Hungary to become a unicorn, a deep ecosystem, and what would have to happen in Hungary to be more have a better system that attracts more resources and growth potential. And we have seen that we need better startup support. If we compare the level of startup support that is available in Hungary, it is 5 times less than it is available in Vienna. Budapest versus Vienna here. We need more global tech firms. We do not have the experience from people working at big problems in tech at global tech firms. So we need to bring global tech firms to the country so that the know-how also comes to the country. 4 times less than Dublin was the comparison here. 2 times more specialization. Hungary outperforms other hubs in cybersecurity, but they don't have the investments here. Tallinn shows that 200 million euros investments in this sector per year is a realistic goal. Hungary doesn't have that. You have that in Estonia, but you don't have it in Hungary, even though you outperform on many metrics in the cybersecurity field. And you need to be 8 times more international. So Hungary has 8.5 times less than Lisbon in terms of international founders. Even though Hungary was super attractive to a lot of international folks, it doesn't seem that founders come here to start their companies at the level that would be necessary. So you could increase with that in terms of internationalization, you could increase the founder pool in Hungary by 25% if more international founders would come. These metrics are just like a little view into what could be possible if we focus on the system and we try to increase the functioning of the system. Great. So before we go quickly to the roundtable, I want to show you what we have in stock for Hungary. So we as Deep Ecosystems, we accelerate entrepreneur-driven coalitions for ecosystem growth. Our role models and also personal experiences of our founder team come from 3 role models over here, which are big entrepreneurship hubs in the world. Unternehmertum in Munich, which has 400 staff members. Startup Chile in South America with 300 staff members, stationed in Paris with 260 staff members. So these are big ecosystem hubs that show the potential of working on the system and also see the importance of being sizable. Also, what we want to achieve is with our accelerator of ecosystems, we want to see more ecosystem orchestrators that work on this impact level. So what we want to do here is to run the Deep Sea Hungary, which is the Deep Startup Ecosystem Accelerator Hungary, and we're launching this in the next 2 weeks. And we're looking for the players here in Hungary that want to join us for 2 years to get help in building initiatives for the ecosystem. So we will bring in international partners, international expertise, and we will help you to build these initiatives and scale the initiatives that already are started here in Hungary so that they have the impact they need. So what we will do is we will collect the local ecosystem builders. We will run an ecosystem hack where we invite all the ecosystem builders within the next couple of months. We're going to sit down with you and with international partners and blueprint providers, and we will find out what other strategic initiatives that we want to do in Hungary. And then that will be the starting point for a 2-year initiative where we will support you, join forces, and create these ecosystem initiatives. So not only the bad things, also the opportunity to make changes. I invite you to be part of that journey, and I'm looking forward to already have the first impressions with some of the ecosystem leaders here in the roundtable. So we hear your thoughts, your experiences of what's working in the ecosystem, what excites you about the ecosystem, where you see the ecosystem at work, and what we need to do more. So thank you for that. If you want to contact me, here's my email, and then we go now to the discussion. Thank you. Great. Does anyone have like a first input on this big topic of ecosystems? Do you want to give it you sit in the middle, it seems like something's on the tip of your tongue, you want to get it out.
Okay. Just was thinking when you talk, was just looking out the window, we can see companies employing more than 10,000 engineers, and also 2 universities employing more than 10,000 engineers at this stage. The difference is that the engineers at the companies are working for some international brands, and their job and their added value is a component of something very large, very international, but just because of the brand is not Hungarian, value that remains in Hungary is much smaller. Basically, it's a linear calculation from the salaries each other, not the smallest ones, but this is like that. But we still look for something exponential in these ecosystems, and that's why we think of help them or encourage them to provide something that is
Very interesting perspective. I think we often talk about engineers or developers. Now I must say in the past years we switched to engineers. Before we were talking about developers. I think it's a often underappreciated community. Do you see the community of technicians? Do you see this community emerge? Do they self-organize? Do you see that there is kind of a common belonging among these, or do you think they are all in their office, in their job, and they feel it's nice there, but they are not exchanging, they are not playing with crazy ideas? What does that happen?
they do play with basic ideas, of course. So there is the opportunity. Whoever is working for a large company or a university or a small company, they have their ideas, but the attitude, the encouragement to do something something different is also part of the approach.
Yes, I understand. Yeah, I remember I was working at Microsoft, and there was there was a team called DevX, and it was basically community building with developers. And there was a whole approach to bringing developers together, working with conferences, the super nerdy conferences, where I would not understand the word when I go. So I feel that kind of community spirit where techies and engineers talk about the latest stuff, not only in the online forum, but in real life. It leads to a lot of ideas that can motivate someone to form a team for this topic. I think that's super important. Very good. Anyone else wants to jump in? You want to share your?
I can say that there are two approaches to the market. In general, you can exploit the market or you can grow it. And the first one is related to competition, the second one is related to cooperation. And there was a British economist, Thomas Malthus, who thought that food resources are limited and population growth is not. And that's why at some point we'll start. But innovations proved that he was wrong. And nice thing with startup is that all the startups are about innovations. And so they're limitless. And if we cooperate, we can grow them in much larger scale. I can also answer one of your questions from the letter now or later. Okay. So, we had a questions from Tomasz. And one of them was, is there anything beside one-to-one coaching, startups, and probably some workshops? And we had a nice experience as well. And so one thing that we developed in acceleration program, which was beside this, was related to cooperation. And first of all, it was cooperation with corporates, because corporates are not competitors for all the incubators and accelerators, they are friends. And not only because they can be the clients or investors if they have corporate venture fund, but also they make very good mentors. And probably that was one of the best mentors we had for startups. Secondly, universities, and we encourage startups to work with universities. And especially, for example, universities would be a very nice supply of employees and team members, like startup job fair. Why not? It was very powerful for getting new team members. Of course, other incubators and accelerators, not only because any startup can attend much more than one program, but also because they bring much wider variety of business angels, especially business angels, because sometimes they're hard to tackle and hard to reach. And of course, startups themselves. And in every program, we had something which is called all hands meeting, where we gathered all the startups and we encouraged them to talk about a problem of one startup and all others to help them, to find out how they can help them with contacts, with network, or with other solutions. So, yeah, I think cooperation is very crucial in this subject.
Very good, thank you. And very important points. I feel like to emphasize this, I feel like accelerators also compete now. No? So we have a lot of accelerators. I still say we don't have enough, but we have a lot. We don't have enough, but we have a lot. So there is competition which is healthy. And I think what you outlined is you need to work on behind the scenes stuff. You need to work as an accelerator to sharpen your knife, to be really helpful to the startups. And you're not helpful by just providing the know-how that you have gathered in the last 10, 20 years of your career. Even if you're a super good founder, techie or whatnot, it's still not enough because startups have so many different needs. So what you just outlined, that you say we need to work the corporate side. One of our big jobs as the accelerator is to build the understanding on the corporate side for startups, to get out the crucial information from the corporates that actually helps the startups. That's our job. We as an accelerator need to work on that behind the scenes. And I think that sets the good accelerator apart from the bad. It's the work you do on the ecosystem as an accelerator. We go further darker than so.
So I think to switch from a shallow ecosystem to a deep or a well-working ecosystem, we need kind of a miracle to happen. Actually, it's not like a plan that you go stage one or stage two and then you have the ecosystem. So there is some kind of magic or spark that happens along the way. I heard from a company that is not very far that manager said that at our company there are no decisions made. We say mantras all the time, and all of a sudden things happen. Not by a decision, but doing mantras. And I think ecosystem building is very similar to this. So if the key players of the ecosystem all want the same, they are all building the same thing, keeping in mind their own role and their own expertise, I think the ecosystem will grow, and it grows already. For example, what Mr. László said about the legal changes in the ecosystem, that was definitely a mantra that was being told by different layers of the ecosystem for, I don't know, a decade. But different players told it first time at different point in times, and then Startup Hungary Foundation happened, and everybody was saying the same thing. And this mantra somehow materialized to actual legal changes. But the government, which was a surprise, a magic moment for everybody. So kudos for that. Playing your role by saying the mantra. I think likewise in this ecosystem, we had different trends. 5 years ago, I think many corporates started their innovation programs. And the ones that were funded by PR budgets, they died. Some new PR meme came up. Then a lot of accelerators started to. Now we see who are doing the job than the others who are more precise. I think it's clear that the ecosystem, the key players of the ecosystem, have such gatherings, and they discuss their own role. Who is helping motivate students, for example, to become more entrepreneurial? Who is playing a role for existing senior engineers in big corporates to jump out and become entrepreneurs, etc. There are many different roles in the ecosystem, but my feeling is that good people are doing the good things. So if we all say the same mantra, then the ecosystem will have this magic moment when we see that, okay, now it's working. But it will be hard to define the true plan.
It's an extremely important point. I like the idea of no decisions but mantras, because it points out to the problem that you cannot plan a system. You cannot sit down and make a blueprint and plan out a system, because it is so diverse. There's so many different actors. If you would want to invite them to sit around a green table and decide on something, you would not get everyone, you would not agree on anything. And if you agree on something, for sure it will not help anyone, right? So having this kind of approach of letting it grow in kind of a market situation where you say, if we all follow the growth perspective, we all get a payout in the end, right? So if we all work towards growing the ecosystem, we all benefit. That is more promise. So not planning, but following like a big vision and seeing how you can specialize, how you can then play a role. Because what you pointed out is extremely important. You have like so many little things that sound like easy. You know, saying, oh, someone needs to take care of motivating students. Someone needs to take care of PhD. Oh, it's different. Okay, students and PhDs, different. Yeah, it's different organizations. Maybe you need 20 people working on each of these problems, right? And I think this kind of diversification is exactly where we need more startup programs, where we need more startup actors. That's why I say, even though we have a lot, we need more, because each of these problems needs their dedicated support structure. In London, we have 400 startup programs. 400 startup programs. Would you say that in London, people are doing a bad job in providing support for startups? No, they are all justified, not all men, but you need very specialized support organizations for different things. And this diversification is a process. It is competition, it is pivoting, it is players saying, I focus on that problem. If you focus on that, we can collaborate. And that's why there is many players in the end. And today, maybe some will have to adapt and to say a change to a certain issue that is more important. where I am the one that can contribute, while the other player maybe focus on a different topic. So there's a lot, but competition will lead to even more and will lead to more specialization. Great. Sophie.
Well, I will definitely take the approach from a co-working perspective, because I do believe that we are a service provider to the ecosystem. Basically, we also do innovation ourselves, like how we build spaces, like how we run it, stuff like that. But anyhow, we have like a very unique opportunity to actually have a lot of different players within the co-working, within these IT hubs, and it's like a petri dish. Like you can see the zeitgeist of the health of the ecosystem within your space, right? You interact with them and you try to help them, but it's very apparent. Like if you see more and more startups coming in, if you see more and more sole entrepreneurs coming in and taking a desk, and then you know that they are starting just their company and they want to be in the community because they need help, right? They want to belong somewhere, and they want to actually tap into the knowledge and the opportunity of that space and the community that is in that space. So for me, it's very interesting that in our region sometimes we take the approach of, like, it's more like competition. So like one player should like dominate the market because we are small markets and we don't need more of that. For me, for co-working, it's very apparent because co-working has had like a big boom in, or like in the 2010s, right? This is where the whole concept just became like more well known, right? But while in the region, co-workings started to like pop up and bloom and grow, in Hungary, the number of co-workings actually started to drop, right? And I'm very happy that you mentioned Station F, right, in your presentation, because you need players like this. You need, like the brick and mortar, the space where the ecosystem can meet, feel safe. We have the same values. We are almost all IT, right? So we speak the same language. It's much more easier to collaborate, right? And you don't need to reinvent the wheel all the time, right? And especially when you're like a young company, or you're a student coming out of university, and you have the gene in yourself and you want to start something new. It's super difficult because you're just going to research everything all over again. While when you are in a healthy ecosystem, in a healthy community, you just can go so much faster because it has been done before and people can help you, right?
Absolutely. No, I think that this breeding ground sometimes is also underestimated. No, it's like a function where you say at some point, oh yeah, that is here. Of course we have co-working. But what co-working do you have? What spirit lives there? No, how does it feel there? Is it a place where people feel like, okay, I rent a space and leave me alone? Or is it a place where something grows? So sometimes there is a difference between I have a co-working and these are the square meters we have, fantastic, to, yeah, okay, so there is a good spirit and something's growing out of that.
Well, and not only that, you have the co-workings, you have the events and the spaces where people can meet, right, in the ecosystem. But then we are all human, right? So that there's only so much time you can spend on business, right? So I think the personal connections are also very important.
Very nice. Yeah, do you want to say, you were like, so you wanted to say something?
Yeah. Anyway, just you mentioned the specialization, and I think we are specialized. As I said, that we focus on the energy, mobility, and circular economy sector, and these sectors has something in common. That's okay. The green tech is something common, but there is something more. Most of the startups and most of the innovative companies need infrastructure and access to transactional data that belongs to mainly to the large companies, and these symbiosis with large companies can help these innovative companies to access the relevant resources. This is a little bit beyond the co-working space because you cannot measure it in a specific number of square meters, but sometimes you have to go there. You have to be there at the and test yourself and test your ideas in a relevant environment with relevant infrastructure.
Yeah, I have one thought that while you were talking, I had one thought about what is actually the big problem in startups. No? So startups grow or don't grow, right? The big problem is to even have a chance to succeed, you need a massive resource. No? You need a massive set of resources. And there's classically the way of collecting money to overcome the resource problem. If you get an investment big enough, you can buy everything. You can buy all the resources you need, and then you have a shot at trying out your idea, right? Only after you have the resources, you will see if it works. So that's the big problem of the startup. They don't have the resources to even know whether it will work or not. Now, the capital most of the time is not available to that extent. So you normally don't raise enough money to have all the resources available to test it out. So what do startups need to do? They need to find access to capabilities through partnerships among each other and with support organizations. It's basically replacing part of the capital that they need if they share resources. So for example, when startups in the energy sector all have a similar challenge, they can team up. Most of the time, they don't do it without the help of an ecosystem player. Normally, they have a unit that is like, I don't know, EIT or an incubator or so on, that organizes that sharing of capabilities among the startups. But by sharing, they save a lot of costs. They suddenly can do things that a big company would do with money. They can do it with collaboration and sharing their personnel, their ideas, their access, etc. Do you see any of these examples in your daily life where you see like, oh yeah, actually there we have like 3, 4, 5 startups that do share an infrastructure, do share a capability, and we see that that works. Is there anything that you observed in this regard, so that the audience has an example, a lively example of this? Also, Timofey.
Yeah, I mean, most of the startup studios do this. So they share infrastructure and some I know, even some expertise development and so on. But yeah, I've seen startups sharing at least things like PR and marketing, because those are shares, those are expenses which could be quite high. But I also, like, you talked about resources, and I just wanted to mention, who knows company called QB? QB? Okay. So QB was a company which became a unicorn from scratch. They had like several billions of investments and they failed. So resources, money is not everything. And so there are lots of examples where startups succeeded because they were sharing things like experience and connections and network. And that's also very important to share. And I know lots of examples of this.
Very good. Any other contributions there?
Just one thing. So yeah, I've seen the presentation of István at the very beginning. So we worked with them together, and they have the infrastructure, and along the previous years, so we had several interactions where we could support startups to benefit from this infrastructure. But this is not related to one specific location. In our sector, this is it is mostly cannot be done.
In my own case, we talk about we have very successful cooperation with different educational institutions. I started the company out of my CEU MBA program, and then we donated many projects to LLMs, so legal clinics, for example, and they helped a lot. And then some of these students now work in the startup ecosystem. Right now, we work with a brilliant PhD student from ELTE just across the river, and he contributes a lot to our operation and our research and development activities. So I think we even invite high school students to our office to show them how we work. So I think we benefited awful lot from these types of resource sharing. Even last year with METU, just a third university to mention, I contributed to their HR program, which is a market for us. So I got leads out of that, and they got a very nice, down to earth, case study through me. So I think that can give you a lot contribution with the education sector.
Very nice.
Well, it's quite easy for me to answer that question because everything we do is shared, right? But I will give you a couple of like very exact points. We do help a lot of startups prep their pitch, right? Like the community sits together, we invite people, like other founders, so you don't even need to be part of like an accelerator program, or you don't need to test it in front of an investor because these guys already like raised money. They know what an investor will be looking for, so we are like kind of informally help them, like look through the numbers, like do the like help the design a little bit. We also provide all of our event spaces for the community for free, and also for the wider IT community, because that's what we shouldn't be making money on these square meters, but it's actually to support the whole ecosystem, to showcase what are they doing. Like whoever wants to start a meetup on some specific topic, you should be there to support that, right? Until another corporate comes, they start sponsoring it. That's another question from then on. But yeah, little bits and pieces like that that actually make the difference.
Very nice. Yes, and I think this is not to be underestimated. Now, if you build a new company, your event series might be extremely important. Now, because you create a company in a new emerging market. Most likely, market participants have not learned about the innovation that you offer before. So you need to create the market. So you need to talk about it. So a lot of startups need to organize events, need to talk about this, need to be in media, and so on. And as you said, PR is expensive. Going to an event is expensive. Organizing meetups is expensive. So allowing startups to team up and have their joint spaces where they very easily and almost without noticing contribute jointly to financing it. These are the golden rules. Now, these are the tricks that we can do in the ecosystem, because maybe you realize the event space is financed by the one event series that the startups initiated, which now is sponsored, and now some money comes back and we can allow others to organize it for free, right? So unseemingly, you see things get shared and people benefit from teaming up without even realizing. And that's the magic of the ecosystem. You as a startup don't even realize it's there. When you talk to startups, often you ask them, what is the ecosystem? They look at you and say, I don't know. I said, that's good. It's good. You as a founder don't know what the ecosystem is. The ecosystem works for you, makes it easier for you. You find an investor, the ecosystem helped you. You didn't even realize. Someone was lobbying for new instruments for financing startups for 10 years. Now you just get a safe agreement in your hand and you sign it and you say, that was easy. I'm a great founder, right? So that's the ecosystem. It makes it easy for founders to do their thing, and they probably don't even know what happened in the background. So that was my last word. Any last words from the round table?
Just
Yes.
one last thought. I think sharing resources is important, but nowadays it's all about timing your idea, and it's even easier to start your company at the right time. But can you grow in the right pace? Because if you grow slower than the rest of your competitors globally, you will still miss the good timing later on. And nowadays with generative AI and the speed of innovation, which is mind-blowing, I see it's quite hard to find a meaningful innovation that can persist and where we have time to actually develop a company around it. So maybe deep tech is a good guess, maybe infrastructure related and energy related innovation will be higher prioritized than B2B software. But we live in interesting times. I met two engineers, two IT guys who hacked their way through an accelerator program, doing marketing, legal stuff, sales, fearlessly doing things they have never done before because they had access to software technologies, AI that was not available before. So actually, it's easier to be an entrepreneur than before. Access to knowledge, access to resources is easier, but to really find meaningful innovations that will persist over time, it's much tougher. I think so. The ecosystem can help in that, and I'm just calling for MVM. I mean, kudos for the program, but MVM is not the best known for being speedy, being fast, granting these opportunities to companies, and if these large corporates, not only MVM but everybody else on the market, is taking a lot of time from these startups to get even a small pilot project, it actually takes the most important resource out of their hands, timing, and to try their solution within real market conditions. So I think that is very, very key to give these opportunities fast.
Well, in our sector, compared to the IT sector, in IT sector, everything happens fast because if one software fails, who cares? So then there will be the next one. Okay, but if there is a blackout in the energy system, everybody cares. That's why everybody is reluctant to change immediately. They need robust processes, robust innovations, and then it can be implemented.
That was an end on time. I just saw the ticker go from 1 to 0 there. So we are at the end of the time of this roundtable. Thank you everyone for participating and your insights. I hope the audience enjoyed it. You can pick our brains later on in the networking. And now when David has his microphone fixed, I will be quiet.
Thank you. Can I be on? What's my rule number 1? Never trust the technology. Though, thank you, Timothy, Sophie, Akos. What do you call two Akoshes? I've no idea. Two Esthers are obviously polyester. And of course, Thomas for coming from, thank you, grown. I can testify as well. I've done some things with ecosystems that Thomas has been involved in building in Romania. We're working on a program at the moment with people in Albania. So please, those of you who have the ability, speak to him as well.